As entrepreneurs, we all have a reason why we chose to leave our 9 to 5 for an 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. I'm here to capture those stories of why we all hustle and grind for our companies. Erin is founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business. She helps entrepreneurs and small business owners get the financial and emotional freedom they need to build a business and a life they're proud of by learning how to be in charge, take action, and get results. She has been mentoring, training, teaching, and coaching for more than 20 years. She loves helping people take action they didn't think possible, doing things they didn't think they could do, and succeeding beyond what they dared to dream. Hey, Erin, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I really, really appreciate you being here and taking some time out.
Awesome. I'm excited to watch you cut this off, because when you and I start going, we just keep going. So that's going to be my personal mission for today, is watch Andrew try to hit the stop button.
Be ready for a roller coaster of rabbit holes.
Here we are. Here we go.
I remember being on your podcast a while ago, and it's like, yeah, let's do this. Just get ready and go. Same conversation with Red Dot.
Awesome. It's the most fun, right? Real conversations.
Absolutely.
Real human beings.
Absolutely. So let's start off the conversation here. What is your magic power? What's your superpower? What are you good at?
What am I good at? There's two parts to it.
Cool.
So number one, I can listen to what somebody is telling me they're wanting to do and trying to do. Okay. And I can take what they're saying and hear what they're not saying, rearrange it, show them the actual path to get them there, but not just there, higher than they thought they could. Right? So there's this mixture, and that just I can't not do it. I've learned this, my strength finders, visionary, strategic thinking learner. I can't not do it. I suck in all the information, I rearrange the order, and I hand it back to you, right? I can't not do it. But the exciting part for me is showing you it's possible and showing you it's probably more than what you even thought it was.
Interesting. I like that. So blind spotter.
Part of it, yeah. I think part of that is it's the journalism degree. Ask all the questions, hear what they're saying, hear what they're not saying, right?
Exactly. And I think that's something important, because as entrepreneurs, we get stuck in our little world. And sometimes it is a forest through the trees kind of problem. And having somebody to come in as an outside objective observer and give us counsel and be able to say, hey, have you looked at this before? Is something that really is important, especially if you're going in visionary mode.
Well, and one of the things you just said that's so key is outside counsel. It's not about me or anyone else telling you what you want. I think that's it's a big thing out there. It's not really up to me to decide for you what you want. Right? That's the one thing I can't do. One of the things I can't do. I can't tell you what you want. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing to me when I ask people, because one of the first things I ask people when we're in strategy sessions, all right, what do you want? What are we doing here? Mm-hmm. They don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know.
Yeah. We get so caught up. And especially depending on where people are at in their journey as far as being an entrepreneur, especially at that beginning part, I call it the suck, where you're just trying to just do whatever you can to keep this thing going. You're just robbing Peter to pay Paul and just trying to make this thing work. And you're just all gumption, and your title is yes, all the things.
Right. It is. And I'm going to tell all your listeners something they're probably not going to want to hear. Mm. That's an iterative process. It's going to happen to you at every level.
Yeah.
I say, what do they say? New
different
level,
levels,
new
different
devil.
devils.
Yeah. I have a different approach.
Sure.
New level, same devil, different outfit.
There you go.
Right? It's the same muckety muck that had us stuck the last time. It just bought a new suit, so we didn't recognize it right away.
Yep. I call it the boss fight. It's that one thing that you need to kind of go on to the next one. Like in video games, you have that one boss fight at the end of it. And during that transition, which makes transitions
So the
difficult.
boss fight, okay, so this
Yeah,
is the mild generation gap between the two of us.
there you go.
Pac-Man and asteroids. There was not a lot of boss fights going. Like you forget, I got a couple of years. I got just enough
A
years
few. Just a couple.
just enough to be Pac-Man and Donkey Kong as opposed to
Uh-huh.
Mortal Kombat. And yeah,
Something a little different. Exactly. Right, right, right. But it really embodies what we go through. And this is this thing about entrepreneurship. I was talking to somebody earlier about it today, where it's like there's a level of strength that you build because of it, because of going through these things. And so it's totally, yes, you're in the suck for a while. You'll come out a whole lot better and a lot more able to contribute, I think, because of that strength. Now you've been through this. Now you can lead others to be able to go forward.
yeah,
So, yeah.
totally. And truthfully, like I'm witnessing that. And here's the other thing, like to be okay with that and look at it as a gift, not a challenge. And that's all sounds real fluffy, but there's some truth in it. So 5 years ago, when I launched this business, I had a vision for this business. And
Mhm.
then thanks to COVID and a couple other things, none of it happened.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, I have revisited and gone back to my original vision.
Mm.
And I can tell you, I wouldn't have done a tenth as well the first time as what I can do now for people, having been through what I've grown and what I've done and what I've experienced. So sometimes what is it? The redirection is for your protection, right? Sometimes the redirection is to make you better at it when it does come back around.
And to prove that you can do it. I mean, I think that's the other part about being redirected and something about just being entrepreneurs is we are tenacious as hell. And we have to be that way.
Stupidly so.
Stupidly, sometimes stupidly so.
Like a
Sometimes it's just
dog with a
because we're doing it,
bone.
But I think that really shows us that we can do it. We have the ability.
That
And so that's
trust,
really a big,
right?
yeah, that trust
That
in ourselves to be able to make
self-trust.
it go right. Right. Yeah, exactly.
100%.
So now, how did you get to where you're at? There's always a story behind stuff. I've heard little bits and pieces about your story, but what was that one moment that kind of said, "Damn, I can make money at this. I can do this. This could be my
So
thing."
this was I when people say, well, how did you get here? Like kicking and screaming. But
Yep.
so there's a couple phases. I'll give you a couple phases of it. So number one, I had the big fancy corporate career, big expense account, traveling, like I had the big fancy corporate career. I left that, interestingly enough, because I was bored.
Mhm.
Which the one thing, and looking back on that, if you're leaving your job because you hate the man and you have a chip on your shoulder, guess what? You're bringing the man and the chip with you. So that doesn't
Mhm.
help. But if
Mhm.
you're leaving your job or career to create something,
Mhm.
now we've got a chance, right? And so I reached the age in the situation where I'm like, there's got to be I'm missing something. I had a great job. I worked with great people, but I was missing something. So that first jump off the cliff was a striving for more. And then I call it, I jumped halfway off the cliff because I had a franchise.
Okay.
So it was someone else's system. And I had
Mhm.
that franchise. I got it to the top 10 out of 200 offices in about 18 months.
Mhm.
And I loved it until I didn't love it anymore. And then to kind of long, short answer your question, that franchise worked with families with aging parents. And when it was my turn to talk about my business at the networking event,
Uh-huh.
everyone's like, yeah, 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 aging parents. But why are you making money? Like, tell me that.
Uh-huh.
Like, we'll send you the parents, but why is it working? And so what I found was I was helping all my networking friends build their business. That's what I knew how to do. I just had come from a place of corporate and an MBA where it was a given that I knew how to do that.
Mhm.
So I didn't value it. And so I was giving it away
Yeah.
until I realized, right, I got to this point with the franchise where I had some frustration with what was going on in the economy and like, okay, well, I could be tied geographically to a narrow margin, heavy lift, difficult situation. Or look, over here, I'm creating aha moments for my friends and their businesses. I wonder if I should just go over there. And that's when I really, so it was so much more letting go of all the other things than it was ever oh my God, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. It's identifying a passion that you had and be like, wait,
And
this
a
is something
skill.
cool. I could do some cool things with my friends and make some great stuff. And oh, by the way, I'm making money. And I think that's one thing
Right.
that as entrepreneurs we find is that one thing that we're really good at that we have a passion about, we would give it away for free if we could. And it's,
And we
that
still
kind
give
of
it
go
away
up.
for free way too often.
I know. Yeah, tell me about it. I am 100% guilty on that one. But it's just really a kind of it's a different mindset than you're at in the corporate world where you're constantly having it's totally different. You're not creating something cool. That's why I left the corporate world. It's been 11 years at this point, and I won't go back because it's just
No,
not
it's been,
cool.
yeah.
It's not, yeah.
I don't get it anymore. It's so fun. And I was
Yeah.
good at it. I can't figure
Mhm.
out looking back. I don't know why I was so good at it.
Yeah.
But because me now never would be good at it. I
Mhm.
don't, the thing that made me ultimately leave is the work started to feel very contrived.
Mhm.
It was work that was being created so that there was work, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yep.
wait, what? And it was so this guy can make a nickel off of that guy's dime. And again, I had amazing people that I worked with and projects that I got to work on and experience. Like, so I don't have a negative kind of, attachment to that, but it started to feel like, wait a minute, there's got to be something else.
Mhm.
There's got to be something else. And I
Mhm.
just kind of went on a psychotic journey to figure out what that else is.
It does feel kind of psychotic, doesn't
It
it?
does. Like, who does this?
What am I doing?
What do I do? But I will tell you, so why I say I've said this for years. I'm now completely unemployable.
Mhm.
I'm completely unemployable because I can't handle things taking too long for decisions to make. I can't handle 17 people needing to know what's going on. I
Mhm.
can't handle micromanaging people. I can't handle being forced to communicate even for a minute with people I don't like. Like, I can't handle all these things. But I think the interesting thing is if the last couple of years in particular have shown us, thanks to TikTok and Instagram and millennials and Gen Z putting it out there,
Mhm.
that your job is just an illusion of the security you think you have.
Yes. Yeah.
So while we say us entrepreneurs are crazy and we go out there and we take all these risks, really, because I'm completely in control of my outcome.
Absolutely. And I think that's one
Which
thing.
one of us is at risk?
Exactly. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that we just have a completely different way of thinking. I heard somebody refer to it as neurospicy, kind of like that with working
Neurospicy.
with
I
everything.
am probably neurospicy. I'm also linguistical spicy.
Something like that. Exactly. Sentence enhancers. I actually heard a colleague say that once. There's like, I work with a lot of business guys, and we add sentence enhancers.
Sentence enhancers. Yes, exactly.
But
Emotion.
I think as entrepreneurs, that's one of the things we do is that we are those free thinkers. We are this. It's just totally different mindset.
Completely
And a lot
different.
of people think it's crazy that I've turned down my 9 to 5, and some level of work life balance. I'm not 100% sure what that is, but we'll go from there. But and then change it for something different. But I have a hell of a lot more control about what happens because I know, like we were talking about, where I have I know that I can do it. And no matter what the hell were to happen tomorrow, I can figure out a way to make it work versus being completely dependent on somebody, which is what happens in a 9 to 5, where you end up in the situation where you're like, if I was laid off tomorrow, you're screwed. It's hard. You have to build those coping mechanisms, while you've just jumped off the cliff and now I've got
Jumped
to
off the
build a
cliff
parachute on the way down. Whereas with us, it's like we have those coping mechanisms.
and I think why more people don't do it. And I totally get this.
Yeah.
It's not that we have more or less security than someone with a job. We really don't. We don't
Yeah.
have more security or less security. That's not a thing.
Mhm.
What we have is risk tolerance.
Yeah.
What we have is a willingness.
Mhm.
And if you don't have this is one of the things that's messing you up as an entrepreneur. This willingness to look in the mirror and take responsibility for everything you're doing wrong. It's different. This is next level personal responsibility
Oh yeah.
in
Extreme.
order, like to the extreme. And I think, forget the security situation aside, the differentiator between someone who isn't ready and someone who is is how willing are you for everything to be your fault? Like,
Yes, exactly.
right? I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
If you need anything at all to be anybody's fault but your own, you are not ready for this.
Exactly. But I think there's a level of freedom in that, because if it's my fault, I can do something about it.
That's how I feel. I didn't always feel that way.
Yeah. But
The first time I learned about personal responsibility and that, you're responsible for every relationship in your life, I was going through a divorce and I did not feel this way.
exactly. Yes.
I will tell you, it was not all my fault.
True story. Exactly.
Not ready to hear this.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think it's in those moments that you learn the most, but they are the hardest. Yeah.
Oh.
Talking about the suck. So true story. So let's talk a little bit more. Kind of, there's got to be a backstory about, like, is there some defining thing that in your mind, in your past, said this was the thing that helped me? Like, now that you're outside the corporate world, now that you're in the entrepreneurial space, now that you're helping entrepreneurs kind of identify those blind spots, what specifically from your past got you to that point? Is there something that kind of gave you an edge?
So I'll tell you, like, I don't know. I was starting origin. I do not know why I felt the rules don't apply to me.
Hmm.
I
I think all of us did to some extent, though. As entrepreneurs, we're like, I
right.
reject your reality and I
I
substitute my
reject
own.
your reality. I'm gonna do it like why should I send you 3 reports?
Yeah.
It's all in the report. Just resort it. This is dumb. And so I wouldn't do it. And my district manager gave up. So is what it is, true story. But so there was also zero entitlement attached to it. So I never felt the rules applied to me, but I also knew I had to create whatever it is that I wanted. So I had that, but I want to, this one situation, because I've been thinking about it lately in some other conversations. One of the big shifts that had to happen for me for things to start working, because I had the big fancy corporate, okay, fine. And then I had the franchise, which is really somebody else's creation and system that I bought into, literally. And now I left that and I was going to go out into my own world, right? And let me tell you, the wheels were off the bus, the bumpers were off the gutter, out the gutters. Like, it didn't work. I was having a horribly hard time. And it was a wide variety of reasons, but I'm sitting at an event. I went to a money mindset 2-day event in Chicago because I had no money and the mindset was for, and I'm like, well, they got to know something that I don't know. So I'm sitting there and there's a woman sitting in front of me and she's happy as can be. And I'm miserable as can be. So clearly we're not, clearly she knows something that I don't know, right?
We're divergent.
Clearly we're not in the same place in this world. So I started asking her questions because she was getting done with the worksheets and she was getting done with the exercises. And I'm still trying to figure out the definitions of the phrases that they're using, right? I'm like, I don't get this. This is so beyond my frame of reference here. And she asked me a question that was massively pivotal for me because she asked me where, same origin story, what did you do? And I'm like, I don't understand why I'm having these challenges. I used to put together multi-million-dollar deals. I've worked with Prudential and John Hancock and US Bank and Highland Capital Brokerage. Like, I was in the big fancy money world. And then I was top 10 out of 200 basically instantly. And she said, what's the biggest deal? What's the biggest sale? What's the biggest deal you ever put together? And I said, it was a $3 million deal. It's $3 million annual deal. And she looked at me and she says, how come you could do it for them and you can't do it for yourself? And my bottom dropped out because I didn't think of it that way. In my internal being, this was all an external problem, but it wasn't. And so I had no answer to that question. I'm like, but that really, it just shifted my entire awareness that the problem that I needed to solve was in my head and not on my website and not right and not the wrong marketing tactic. The problem that I needed to solve was everything I was thinking. And that is the start of the journey where And it's so interesting because now I put that in some of my marketing. I talk about I work at the intersection where what you need to do meets who you need to be to do it, because the plan doesn't matter if you can't do the plan. But I don't lead a lot with it. And yet that's what everybody comes to me for. When I talk about on stage that 2018 was Erin's year of failure and I went from fancy, fancy, fancy to $11,000, then I get clients.
Yeah.
But you got to be able to share that without being hooked by it.
Yes. And it's more about resonating. Like your specific story is going to help some person, and they're going to be like, hey, I'm going through the similar suck. I want to see what's going on.
Yes.
And yeah. And I think that's
and
important.
the important thing to know, and I teach this when I teach personal branding and all that stuff. Because here's the thing, I'm 54 years old. I'm covered in tattoos. My hair is finally one color, kind of two colors. I have my 3/4 of my head. I have a very big mouth, and I will be like this on stage. But you don't have to be lunatic Erin for this to work. You have to find the way that it works for you.
Yeah.
Right. So it, like you said, it's resonating with somebody. I want people to realize so badly that this didn't work because of Erin. This worked because this is how it works.
Yeah.
You don't have to be me for this to work. You just have to do your work for it to
Yeah.
work.
But there's some similarity between, like, a path between what you've gone through and what
Yeah.
somebody else is there before you on that path.
Oh yeah.
This actually makes sense, right?
Yeah, and it's also why I mean I watch Gary V's TikToks, like
Yep.
the Tony Robbins, the Gary V's, the Mel Robbins, like the gurus that are out there, I find are fantastic for motivation and inspiration, but they're very hard to actually learn from because the world they came up in doesn't exist anymore.
Mhm.
Things change too fast. So yes, listen to them. And by the way, they all tell you very, very, very clearly how hard they work to get where they are. There's not a Amy Porterfield. There's none of Amanda Francis. There's none of them out there pretending this is overnight success. And yet that's what people hear.
Yes. Yeah. I think they're really good for folks that are just needing that motivation. Between
Yeah.
that, I'm in my corporate world and I'm having that mindset change. And now I'm being an entrepreneur, which is a very difficult transition because not only are you transitioning and you're having to face all of your demons and now they're being put in front of you and you got to deal with this before you move forward, but that the people that are coming along with you, like your original social groups, are now going to be very different. And there's this black hole in the middle.
That
It's
is
the people that
brutal.
it is
Oh my
absolutely
God.
brutal.
I said this to, so I said this to, who was I talking to? I said this to somebody. I suddenly felt like I was past the beginners,
Yeah.
but the fancy people didn't want to talk to me yet.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's this space in the middle where you can't stay with the beginners because too many of them are trapped in their story and will hold you back.
Yeah.
And yet, imposter syndrome, legitimately not ready, whatever it is, the big achievers, you're not in their room yet.
Yeah.
And that middle is lonely as hell.
Yes. And it's tough because to get into the room with the bigger names, you have to adapt a series, being used to being the smallest fish in the big pond, and get to that point where the imposter syndrome doesn't
Just
completely
goes
overtake
right.
you. So I was at a birthday party over the weekend, and I'll tell you, a whole bunch of big fish in the room, like huge fish in the room, at least, just, and even knowing this, that imposter syndrome kicked in. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's difficult to get, to get that mindset changed.
Right. I took this approach. This is what happened to me. So this is like tactical takeaway here. So when I first started, I've already told, for the people who are listening, I'm 5 feet tall, right? I'm darker, I'm rounder, I'm shorter. And I had this image in my head. I don't usually match, right? I can't do hair, I can't do makeup. It is what it is. And I'm usually fine with that.
Mhm.
But I have had this visual that a tall, thin, blonde woman in a nice outfit with hair and makeup is more successful than me.
Mhm.
And so I would go to a networking event, say I was go to a summit or whatever, and I'd meet someone who externally looked really put together. and I would put them on a pedestal. And then we would have like a one-to-one follow-up coffee, and I would be, oh my God, they want to talk to me. And once I started talking to them, I realized, oh my God, that would have been a perfect client because they don't know what they're doing. But I had put them on a pedestal.
Yeah.
So there was really no way to rebalance that. So I very, very intentionally adopted the mindset, two things when I walk into any room. I'm open to anything. I'm not prospecting. I'm open to anything. It might be a sale. It might be a speaking. Like, I'm open to anything. And the second thing is I can help everyone I meet in some way, even if the only way is putting a smile on their face.
Yeah.
But it helped me get over that hump. Like, I don't need to be further in my career. I could just make someone smile.
Exactly. One of the things, now that we're wrapping up a little bit, one of the things that I'd love to ask is there a book or is there a podcast that has really changed your life?
There's lots of books. There's so many lots of books. The first one that I grabbed onto that helped me with money mindset was Jen Sincero's You're a Badass at Making Money. Because of her approach, so down to earth, and her approach. And when you start using stories of goats pooping all over your car and in your house as how to make money, you're just my human, right? You're just my person. And then another one that's helped me a lot, Denise Duffield Thomas. It's another money mindset book. She talks about manifestation, but her book, this is awesome. Her book is called Get Rich, Lucky Bitch. The best line in the book is, she's like, let me tell you, I still do this. This is my process. When I'm not holding anything back. There's no second book called Get Richer, Lucky Bitchier. Like, that is the best line. That is the best thing.
I love that.
Right. And those were just stories about money. And then a more recent one, two of the more recent ones that I really like is 10 times is better than 2 times. 10 times is greater than 2 times.
Oh, yes, that is good. That is
so great. So great. And then if you have any issues at all, this is a brand new book, Worthy. Just came out. Jamie Kern, I forgot her last name, starts with an L. She is the woman who sold her cosmetics company and became the first female CEO of, I think it's L'Oreal that she sold it. It's like a crazy, crazy story. And this is amazing because she was doing her thing and met Oprah, and Oprah gave her her phone number and said, call me. And it took her 4 years to call Oprah, because it's what I've learned from her above everything else is self-confidence and self-worth have nothing to do with each other.
Yeah.
And it's I could go on with books. I read almost a book a week. So.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I just voracious reader, just because there's so much in there. There's so much.
Somebody said to me, I couldn't believe it. Somebody I talked to, and he's a great guy, said to me, I don't read books because I don't want to hear how anybody else did it. And I'm like, are you kidding? All I want to hear is how everybody else did it.
Yeah, because that you might resonate with something, and there might be something that hits you, and you might need to hear that right then and there.
Right, yeah. And it's not, don't give me A through Z. I just need a nugget.
And sometimes I need to hear something that I might have heard before, and I reread books because there might be something in it that I need to hear again.
And right? A lot of times I'll read them on the Kindle or on my iPad. Yeah. And if I like them, I'll buy them so that I have the physical one so I can write in it and put Post-its and do all the things.
Love it. Love it. Erin, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I really, really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Hopefully we've inspired a few folks. So thank you for having me.
Hope so too. Thanks again for joining us on the Hustle and Grind podcast. If you'd like to learn more about Erin, check out the links in the description.